Trip by me, AJ Humphreys. I want to tell you the background to this story. Not like, what it's about. It's Shutter Island meets Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, set in the woods of Devil's Lake State Park in Wisconsin. There's your background. But let me tell you the truth of how this story came to be. Because back in 2019, 2020, kind of that winter, January, December time, I told myself I want to be a writer. And I was constantly working corporate jobs where I was trying to squeeze the writing in after the fact and never getting it done. But I also wasn't impassioned about any of the stories I was writing. So I took the time to write out 20 plus different story ideas. This was the one that caught my attention. And of all those stories ideas, I have listed it in the afterword of the book, so you can kind of read about this process. But the story idea was a struggling author goes on an LSD trip to find a way to finish his book, but inadvertently stumbles on something he shouldn't. Hilarity ensues as his trip progresses, and he must survive the threatening affair across waves of hallucination and euphoria. So that's how this story started as an idea. I actually finished writing it early 2020, and I realized I don't know how to publish. I don't know how to get an agent. I don't know how any of that stuff works. So I started down that road, went to try and find a traditional publishing route that worked for me. It just kept not working for me. I invested in the process. I even took a seminar with the CEO of a prominent literary agency who reviewed my query and other samples from my manuscript. And even though they told me they really liked it, when I sent it after the seminar, I was rejected very quickly. I was rejected 69 times. Did the Stephen King, nailed him to the wall. And yeah, when I hit 69, I pretty much just said, okay, let's stop. So, how did this book then come back? Because gave it up for a while. I even hired a developmental editor, but then I fell into the Season of the Monster, where I was just consumed by Genie and Genie's story and the tale of the monstrous Vespigs. So from 2022 to 2024, that was my life, Season of the Monster. But then I finished that, and I didn't know where to go to next. But I'd had a couple more beta readers go through Trip. I'd gotten that developmental edit. I was pestered nonstop by family and friends. When's Trip gonna come out? When's Trip gonna come out? Well, April 4th this year. That's when it's coming out. So I hired an editor, I hired a cover designer, and it came to life. The fact that it's finally here after almost 5 years since the first idea I had. God, is it 6? I'm not a math guy. I'm a writing guy. Yeah. Anywho, so that's Trip. I really hope people enjoy this. Deals with a lot of mental health themes. It is a psychological thriller horror, so be wary going in. Just, it's usually good advice to not trip alone.